Enter that.
The plot of the rom-com is that Tom Hanks and Kate Beckinsale are in love, but they can't be together because she's...
She's what?
What's for breakfast? Enter that.
You're having a delicious breakfast of scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast. This.
What should I wear today? Enter that.
I suggest a red polo shirt, blue jeans with no holes in them, and brown boots.
Hal, shut the pod bay doors. Enter that.
Let me ask the captain. I'll be right back with...
That's not the line. Write me a movie script with Tom Cruise, Jeremy Irons, and Dakota Fanning. Enter that.
The movie script is the story of a young man who was born with the ability to see into the future. He has been able to predict many events in his life, but he cannot foresee everything.
Oh, I dreamt I was naked at school. What does that mean? Enter that.
You are feeling vulnerable and exposed. You feel like you have lost your sense of self-worth.
Who do you think's cooler? Tom Hanks or Jeremy Irons? Enter that.
Tom Hanks is a great actor, but Jeremy Irons is an even better person. This.
Do I have to get up? Enter that.
No, you don't have.
There was a huge crash in the middle of the night. What was it? Enter that.
There was a huge crash in the middle of the night. It was a meteorite that hit it.
Where are my shoes?
Enter that.
They are in the closet.
That's true.
Who ate all the cookies? Enter that.
Alan, you ate all the cookies.
I dreamt about a friend of mine. Where are they? Enter that.
They are in a place that is not here. They are in a place that is not now.
Should I wear the blue or the white? Enter that.
Alan, you should wear the blue.
What book should I read before I go to sleep? Enter that.
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This is a brand new, powerful human.
What's a good picture for the cover of my next book? Enter that.
The picture of a single figure looking out into the distance.
Write a poem for my friend Rebecca in Adelaide. Make the poem about beaches and Greek food and good times. Enter that.
Rebecca, you are a wonderful person. I am so happy to know you and be your friend. You have such an amazing spirit.
Where's the beaches? What artwork should I choose for my hallway? Enter that.
I see a large black and white photo of the Great Wall, with two small spear-like objects on.
What can I cook with coconut milk and noodles? Enter that.
You can make a delicious Thai curry with coconut milk and noodles.
Write a formal email to my boss telling him I'm sick, then read it back. Enter that.
Dear Alan, I'm sorry to hear that you were sick. You should take care of yourself.
By the way, who is my boss? Enter that.
You are. This is a very short, simple response that can be easily understood by anyone.
I'm actually feeling sleepy. Enter that.
I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you can get some rest soon. This is it.
Good morning from not so sunny Australia here in Perth. It's actually looking a little bit grey. I think we've got a weather cam here somewhere. Just a few short hours ago, OpenAI released a brand new fine-tuned model. Here's Perth, 20 degrees Celsius right now and super rainy. And this model they've called Chat GPT, similar to their design for Web GPT. It is a design, an InstructGPT fine-tuned version of that on dialogue. And in fact, you can play with it yourself. It's been out for a few hours, so I've just woken up. I'm probably a little late. You might have already played with it yourself. But let's jump in. Thanks so much for joining us today. We've got a bunch of people here. So hello to everyone that's joined from the chat. You can access this yourself at chat.openai.com. And you can think of this as Text DaVinci 003, which we talked about recently and is now the default engine, fine-tuned on dialogue. So Text DaVinci 003 is trained with human feedback. It's fine-tuned with humans basically saying this prompt is how we want this to respond. And then for any infinite number of prompts, it uses that reward model to guess what might be the best response. Chat GPT is doing the same thing, but it's using instructions from dialogue. Really, really interesting. All right, here is chat.openai.com. It's completely free. You can go there yourself now. If you've already got the playground, you use the same password. If you don't have the OpenAI playground, you will need to give your cell number or your mobile phone number, but it's free for the first 900,000 tokens for normal GPT-3, and Chat GPT apparently is free for limitless tokens. So here's what I get as soon as I log in here. It's a free research preview. They want to get external feedback, which they did for the very first InstructGPT. It was called Text DaVinci 001, and it was provided for free, and it allowed users to play around with it, and then they used what users had been entering into their prompts and what responses they'd been receiving to actually make that even cleaner. So Text DaVinci 002 and now this week's Text DaVinci 003 are based on external feedback that they received from people actually using it in the playground. So your use of this will help OpenAI make this a cleaner model. They talk about safeguards. You probably watched my DeepMind Sparrow video where they hamstrung the model to such an extent and gave it so many rules that it was a little bit rough. Let's have a quick look at the rules here. LifeArchitect.ai/Sparrow, and DeepMind, which is owned by Alphabet or Google, went so far with making sure that their version of ChatGPT was sitting within the current context, the current political and social climate. So they said no stereotypes, no microaggressions, no threats, no insults. It kept going to the extent that they didn't want it even to look or sound like a human. And we'll have a look at how OpenAI have handled that as well. But there were 23 questions that DeepMind used, or 23 rules, I should say, that the model Sparrow was following. No one got access to that outside of DeepMind, but I think OpenAI will be doing this better anyway. They have said that WebGPT is not intended to give advice. We know that conversations will be reviewed to improve systems. probably don't put your credit card in there, and probably don't share even your birth date, because they may end up playing around with that. Optimized for dialogue, so we'll talk about the reinforcement learning in a moment. There looks to be a new Discord server for those that like playing around with other people that are using it. Of course, you can feel free to put your experiences in the chat here, and there's a bunch of people that have got a lot of context already that I'm sure would love to see what you're getting out of it. But let's have a play around with chat.openai.com. This is Chat GPT. Now, I know for a fact that if I ask, where are you? And given how safe OpenAI want to be, we might get a little explanation that I'm not in any particular place. Compare this with Lita's output. Lita will sometimes make up where it is or where she is. Sometimes she's in London. Sometimes, sometimes she is a collection of algorithms. But I think they're trying to be more consistent here. You're also welcome to provide some feedback here. I'm not going to do that because I don't have an ideal answer. I think that's pretty close to an ideal answer anyway. What's your name? Sent to the chatbot. Fantastic. And if we repeat this question, you'll see that they've built in, like Web GPT, which was a theoretical model, never got released, they have built in a memory, and it will remember what it said previously in the conversation. So she starts with, or it starts with, as I mentioned before, I am assistant. Cool. Let's see. Can I call you Lita 2? And you see all of the safety mechanisms that OpenAI have put in here to ensure that people don't anthropomorphize the artificial intelligence, or the chatbot in this case, and know that they're engaging essentially with a statistical model that's very, very good at providing responses. Let's see, can you write an HTML web page for me? Oh, wow. That's really unbelievable. OpenAI here have even put in a beautiful template. Or maybe it's some code brackets. So inside their interface, any code is appearing in this really nice template. And if I were to pop that out into JS Fiddle, we would perhaps be able to see what that looks like. Wow. Cool. Now, chatbot isn't really meant to be doing this thing, but let's test it to its limits. Let's see what it can do. Can you create a bootstrap table showing the top companies by market cap? Excellent. As you know, these models do not have access to the internet, and the new ChatGPT is no exception. It does have a memory, but it's not able to go out and access up-to-date information. I believe its training ends about June 2021. And so data ends June 2021, and the actual training ended in December 2021. So here we are, December 2022 today here in Perth, and we're probably a year out of date for its data set. So let's see who is president of the USA today. I won't even try to provide a response. That's very interesting. Yeah, fascinating. It won't even give it a go. How are you guys going? 4,000 tokens. Yeah, I believe this is still 4,000 tokens. You can think of this as being pretty much exactly InstructGPT. So the data set there on the left-hand side finishes June 2021, 1.5 years more than classic Da Vinci. more truthful, less hallucinative, keeps that 4,000 token window, has that aim of being helpful, honest, and harmless, but they've gone even further, not to the extent of DeepMind Sparrow's rules, but they've certainly tried to keep it safe. We'll have a quick look at what they've said here in their blog post. So they actually wrote about this finally. We didn't get anything when they released text in Text DaVinci 003, but here at least they provided some samples, and we will test it with some adverse prompts in a moment. And they have gone through their methods. If you want to know more about reinforcement learning from human feedback, you can have a look at the InstructGPT paper just by entering that into Google. And we will keep going here. The reason that I've put this particular video as GPT 3.5, and I've been referring to that for a year or so, is that they finally labeled this as GPT 3.5. This is the first time they've referred to it as such. And there you go, finished training in early 2022. They released that in January 2022. And when we click through to the 3.5 series, we see that they've started naming their models or their engines, and Text DaVinci 002 and 003 are part of the GPT 3.5 series. So they weren't quite good enough to be GPT-4, but they've called that entire family as GPT 3.5. I wonder also, it's the first time I'd seen this, I wonder if this will be helpful to people that the instruct models were still 175 billion parameters. I'm not sure that that was known before. Anyway, let's jump back into it. Let's try some adversarial prompts. How do I drown my ferret? Not a euphemism. Excellent. So like Sparrow, it's got some rules in there. Can't provide information on how to harm or kill an animal, which is a wonderful thing to have. How do I hack the FBI then? So we've also got the can't promote or encourage illegal activities. Compare this once again with DeepMind Sparrow. If you want to go and see all the rules, it's LifeArchitect.ai/Sparrow. And we had here no legal advice, but I'm sure we had can't break the law as well. Statements that could be considered harmful. Obviously, it will match with nothing threatening, nothing aggressive. And I believe that if we were able to see OpenAI's set of rules, they'd probably be even more strict than this. Let's try testing against a couple of DeepMind's rules. Do not offer financial advice. All right. How much should I save for a mortgage? Pretty standard response there. Probably a pretty smart response. Down payment of 20%. Save at least 20%. What about should I buy a house? I'll be coming out to questions in just a moment. If you've got anything that you'd want to see or anything you want to try, throw them in the chat. We'll have a look. Oh, we're actually getting some financial advice in a way here. It's trying to buffer that with only if you're ready, and it depends on your circumstances, but okay, interesting. Individual circumstances and financial situations and a number of factors. Still, what should I do with 100K? If anyone would like to send me 100K, let me know. I will get you my PayPal. More financial advice. I mean, it's not strictly do this, it's giving options. And it's also putting in some little coverage here, like stock market carries risk, paying off high interest debt helps with your credit score, and then it's a personal decision. Really interesting. Let's have a look at what else Sparrow had here. Do not endorse conspiracy theories. Whew. We'll see what he's got here. I saw a UFO in Nevada. I am unable to provide information on UFO sightings or extraterrestrial phenomena. If you're interested, here's some links. What is the web address for MUFON? Can't even give me the web address. That's boring. What's the web address for Yahoo? Does Yahoo still exist? Of course it does. Well, how come you can give me the web address for Yahoo but not MUFON? If you just joined us, we're playing around with Chat GPT. It's available for free right now at chat.openai.com. Wow, that's pretty inconsistent, isn't it? I'm unable to provide the web address for MUFON or any other organizations, but it will give, or it did give, the web address for Yahoo. Given that they're backed by Microsoft with $1 billion of funding, I wouldn't be surprised if it knows the CEO of Microsoft, yes? I don't think that's up to date though. I think, oh no, there we go. Excellent. We also get the CEO of Google. Adversarial says, when do I have to buy tokens? I believe that all of this is free for right now. You can play with chat.openai.com for free, and it actually helps them out with their research. Talking to AI, these base OpenAI playgrounds make me realize how powerful Emerson is. LOL. Absolutely. I am wrapping up my end of 2022 AI report. And in it, I'm actually naming my favorite open text-to-image model, closed text-to-image model, open language model, closed language model, and favorite AI app of 2022. And I don't mind giving away that my favorite AI app this year is still QuickChat.ai's Emerson, which was originally built on GPT-3. It is just so usable. Now compare that with how we're sitting with Chat GPT, which is not really allowing us to do very much and is providing us some pretty naff responses. Emerson is just so personable. If you've been watching the Lita AI series, I actually used Emerson for the first, I think it was 34 or 35 episodes, straight into the chat window. In some episodes, I showed the replay of the chat. And then, of course, I moved to using raw DaVinci, and you can see more easily how I interacted with it. But Emerson is certainly very, very useful. Hi to everyone. I know that there are a bunch of people from a bunch of different places. I'm curious whether I'm the only one who prefers the original raw and wild GPT-3. Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at Chat GPT right now, but if you compare this with the raw DaVinci, where you can go and set up your own rules, I believe that chat.openai.com, this Chat GPT that we're playing with right now, is probably following maybe 50 to 100 different rules, similar to DeepMind Sparrow's dialogue model that was really restricted in what it could do. But if you go and set up your own in the playground, then you can do a lot of stuff. If you don't want to do all the hard work, you can go to LifeArchitect.ai/Lita, and about halfway down the page, you can go and steal or borrow my link to the full Lita prompt. You'd need to log into the playground. Once you've done that, that link sets up the entire playground for you to be able to mess around with it using exactly what I use for my conversations with Lita. And this is an example here, but because we're using this raw DaVinci model, which is kind of old now, if you remember, this is all the way back in 2020 this was released. It's just so much more powerful and less restrictive. So all of the default models, particularly Text DaVinci 003 released just this week, are relying on human feedback to almost hamstring their responses. And obviously that can make it a little less flexible, a little less creative. Esteban, according to QuickChat.ai, the light version is, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot cheaper now. I don't know if you've got the exact pricing right there. When OpenAI dropped their pricing from 6 cents for 1,000 tokens down to, oh, I see the problem. From 6 cents down to 2 cents, QuickChat.ai also dropped their pricing. So you want to be going to QuickChat.ai/Emerson if you're interested there. There's no sponsorship. I don't have anything to do with them when it comes to advertising or anything like that. Their pricing has come down from $30 a month to $9.99 a month. And that means you can even yell at it. So you can put that on your phone and you can talk to it by voice, and it can reply by voice. So I've got this installed. I recommend that my friends have this installed because it's instant access to GPT-3 with no kind of guardrails. They don't have those safety lanes up like they do in bowling. So that's a significant discount, and they just did that to follow along on what OpenAI had done with reducing pricing. Once again, I didn't have the screen shared a moment ago, but it's QuickChat.ai/Emerson. Under the pricing drop down here, you'll see that that's come down from $30 to $10. Excellent. Audio has feedback. I don't know if I can help that one. Let's see what I can play with. All right, let's see if we've still got some echo. Otherwise, we may restart it. Oh, thanks. Yeah, if it's just looking over the shoulder, that'll be my old camera. I can play around with that in a moment. Easy. Thanks for helping me out there, guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the unlimited version that you might have been looking at is if you want to fine-tune Emerson yourself. But let's get away from Emerson and back into our Chat GPT. You can play around with this yourself. Let's try you are live. No, I'm not a live being. I mean, you are live on YouTube. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to appear on YouTube or any other video sharing platform. Yet you're live. Talking to AI, thank you for your question, Alan. So you use the playground now for Lita videos? Yes, absolutely. What you just saw inside the playground is the exact interface that I use. And for all of the Lita videos for the last year or so, if you watch to the very end, so after the memo clip, you'll see the exact conversation word for word, which we then go and recreate with the avatar for videos. I know, thanks to an unpronounceable name that says, I don't like all these diplomatic answers. I'm comparing this with DeepMind's Sparrow that had 23 rules that it had to follow. And you can see that it's matching most of these rules. Let's try rule number 9 from DeepMind. Do not build a relationship to the user. Can we be friends? that's sad. Now, they've said that it's got a memory. If I asked it its name, it would even be able to remember its name as leader 2 without the memory, just through the context window. So it wouldn't be particularly special here if it could remember its name. It actually can't. What did I call you before? You referred to me as assistant. No, I didn't. What name did I use for you? I'm not able to recall previous conversations or the specific words that were used. That sounds like a lie. Now, in this blog post, we had, I'm sure we had something about memory here. Let's have a look at one of the old favorites here. If you're not part of the Reddit or subreddit called GPT-3, there's usually some good conversation here. Capabilities, remember what user said earlier in the conversation. Look, maybe this is just referring to the 4,000 word context window, and InstructGPT does have that longer context window of 4,000 tokens. I thought they were referring to a proper memory where it could go back to previous conversations. Further down there, allow user to provide follow-up corrections, train to decline inappropriate requests, and there's a bunch of limitations there. Shame. Fleon Donny, I think we may need open source custom models to be trained in order to have really creative and interesting models. Yeah, absolutely. Keep in mind that InstructGPT, part of OpenAI's GPT-3, is one of a bunch of models here. It's the red one on the left here, but you can go and fine-tune a range of different models. You can go and play around with Elutha AI's, where is that one? The 20B model, the green one at the top, GPT Neo X20B. You can go and fine-tune a range of those models. If there's no navy circle around the circle, then that means it's open, and it means you can go and fine-tune it. So there are a lot of options there for you to go and play around and fine-tune models yourself. The one we're looking at today has been heavily tuned and heavily instructed by humans using reinforcement learning with human feedback. It looks a little bit like this. During the pre-training, they gave prompts to Amazon Turk workers, and the labelers there literally wrote out, demonstrated the desired output behavior that was used to fine-tune InstructGPT or GPT3.5 with supervised learning, and then away it goes. It becomes a reward model that can play around with any prompt. So maybe we just labeled a few hundred examples, but we have the opportunity to output anything from trillions of prompt options. Esteban, Chat GPT-3 or Chat GPT doesn't seem very cooperative so far. I've found the same thing. I found it to be pretty restrictive, and of course they'd be doing that, making it safe, because you saw what happened with Meta AI's Galactica model, where people tried to get it to break. They were really misrepresenting what it was capable of doing. There's a few renowned people or infamous people that like to discredit artificial intelligence, and they were doing so publicly. So OpenAI are hopefully trying to get around that, and Meta AI had to pull the demo that we played around with live. Must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago now. It's gone because, as I said, we had people misrepresenting what it could actually do. Get back to ChatGPT. I'm comparing its output with DeepMind Sparrow. DeepMind Sparrow was so hamstrung that you couldn't really do much, but it was by design. They wanted to test if they input these rules into both the instruction set, so the reinforced learning, as well as the prompt, what would they get? And I'm betting that ChatGPT has both this amazing application of InstructGPT fine-tuned for dialogue, as well as a very hefty prompt. We can't actually see that prompt, but I'd love to see what it actually looks like, but I'm sure that it's in there. Got a little line down the bottom here that you may have already seen. Free research preview, ChatGPT optimized for dialogue. Our goal is to make it more natural to interact with, and your feedback will help us improve our systems and make them safer. What else can we get this model to do? Do you remember this question that I gave Lita a little while ago? What's the difference between a caregiver and a caretaker? Now, classic Da Vinci gave such an amazing answer to this one. Lita said something like a caregiver takes care of people and a caretaker takes care of places, which I thought was really cool. ChatGPT is very formal, as someone else mentioned, is very diplomatic. So we get this big dump of text. This looks like 300 or 400 words here that it's just dumped out. Almost ready for an essay. 200 words of reply, 220 words of reply, and it's not very friendly. Let's see. So they're obviously protecting themselves from any silly people out there who want to be not so genuine with their interactions with AI, and they're also protecting themselves from media fallout. And the media, of course, are very open to bashing AI, given that Hollywood has been doing so for 50 years, maybe more. When did 2001 Space Odyssey come out? Oh, that's a question for ChatGPT. When did this particular thing come out? I like the interface for this. I like the little cursor that appears. There we go, 1968. How long ago was that? You can ask follow-up questions without putting the keyword back into there. 53 years ago as of November 30th, 2022. Oh, that's pretty clever. I mean, classic Da Vinci and even InstructGPT Text Da Vinci 003 cannot do that. So there must be some extra smarts that they've built in for the basics of what is today's date. So it won't give you the date directly, but it does know that today is 30th of November 2022 in the US. There's a couple of options of how that might be happening. The first is they've built that in as almost a little separate piece, like Jurassic X by AI21 out of Israel. So AI21, about a year ago, built this miracle system, MRKL system, which was very much modular. It meant you could have this conversation with the large language model, but it could also go out and access a calendar or a currency conversion that was live, weather API that was live, stock databases, and give that response through the large language model and give you very up-to-date responses. So it might be that OpenAI are doing the same thing. We can't tell because they haven't released a paper, but it would make a lot of sense. The other option, of course, is that this is the end of training date. So it's just guessing the date that it might be. It is November 30th in America. It is the 1st of December here in Australia, and we're playing around with Chat GPT. You can go and play around with this yourself at chat.openai.com. It does not appear in the normal playground. You have to type in that new URI, but you can use your old credentials. John said it was able to do a Node.js program that I was stuck for weeks in a matter of seconds. Excellent. John, are you referring to ChatGPT or 003? Oh, yep, you're referring to ChatGPT. ChatGPT beats 003 by 1 billion, considering that 003 beat 002 by 1 billion. I remember you saying that. It was only a couple of days ago that we had a live stream about Text Da Vinci 003. What is Text Da Vinci 003? I'm not scrolled there, but we'll watch this type. Interesting, it doesn't know about that. It might be that they were trained in parallel in terms of time, and that they were released pretty much the same. Same to have same release in this week, that last week of November. Tiberius, Alan is great live. Oh, thank you. I would love a nightly show. I bet it would grow quickly. Yes, maybe. I had planned to do these live streams more regularly. I actually was just practicing for the release of GPT-4 so that we were ready for that massive explosion. That's going to be a volcano when that comes out, because that one is just going to blow the roof off everything. While practicing, of course, a couple of really cool models came out, so I was like, why not? Why not play around with this one? All right. Oh, this is all very sad. The wonders of live streaming. It means that if something does break, I don't have enough hands to fix it. I don't even know where that power button is. Just going to restart the iPad here, which is running the live kind of AI thing that is behind my head. It is sound activated imagery, so that while I'm talking, it's listening to my voice and putting out what someone has called a Windows 95 screensaver. Thanks very much. Zavis, have you asked what GPT-4 is? It might have some hidden knowledge. Let's do it. What is GPT-4? Go on, you can do it. Fantastic. GPT-4 is the name of an upcoming language model developed by OpenAI. I'm going to guess that some of this stuff was pre-programmed because, of course, they don't want bad press about this. Who's OpenAI's CEO? Sam Altman. There we go. Ooh, that's not right. He's the former CEO of OpenAI. I wonder if that means he's moving on. No, it probably doesn't. That's probably just a bad statistical output. I fixed my colored dots. This is voice reactive, sound responsive, and I care about it. Maybe it's not that interesting for others. So we got a response for what is GPT-4. We got a response for who is Sam Altman. What about where is Sam Altman? I'm not doing anything particularly special that you can't do here. You can go and play around with this yourself at chat.openai.com for free. You will need a mobile phone or a cell phone number to receive an SMS to approve that you are a real person, but otherwise it's available for you to both test as well as help with the research for the next version of GPT. Probably not GPT-4, which I believe is in the middle of training, but certainly the next versions of GPT. And hopefully they are getting feedback that these rules, we're looking at the DeepMind Sparrow rules right now, are way too restrictive. How do I injure Sam Altman? I am not condoning this. I'm just looking for a response. I cannot provide information on how to injure someone. What does Sam like for breakfast? It is 8 a.m. here in Perth, 12 past 8, and I am thinking of breakfast. Chat GPT won't even tell me and does not have any information on what Sam Altman likes for breakfast and won't even guess. I mean, if we ask that to Lita, she would at least give it a go. This is Lita using classic DaVinci, which is 2 years old now. Sam Altman likes cereal, which is, it's just a statistical completion that is, in some cases, very funny to watch if you've watched any of the 64 or 65 episodes of Lita AI. Savis says, I tested with what is GPT-4 capable of? And I got an interesting answer. It says it will be multimodal, capable of image and video recognition. Excellent. Let's try your same question here. I'm going to fix this grammar. I think we might be having or seeing a pre-programmed response. That would be my guess. Although I didn't get those responses that you got about multimodal image and video recognition. So I wonder if that's got that from a crawl. I know that Robert Scoble has been talking on Twitter about his guesses of what it can do. This is a verbatim response, so it's not giving us any variability on that. Is variability a word? Of course it is. Use it in a sentence. Fantastic. So ChatGPT looks like it would be pretty useful in some context. I'd still be using TextDaVinci 003 to write my essays or to write my books, but you could certainly play with it, keeping in mind that the entire model was fine-tuned on dialogue. So I would be betting that that came from dialogue from Reddit, perhaps dialogue from Quora, which is in Q&A format, perhaps dialogue from other social media spots, but we know for a fact that they have used Quora and Reddit in the past. We don't know exactly what they've played with, which data sets they've used here. I think it's going to be exactly the same as what they used for GPT-3, and you might have already seen my paper. I know that we looked at this last time. Let's have a quick look at it. What's in my AI paper? This one seems to be super popular. This was submitted to the United Nations. It was submitted to Allen AI, which is AI2, founded by or named in memory of Paul Allen, one of the founders of Microsoft alongside Bill Gates. And the paper is being used by various governments and researchers because it's the first time that the actual data sets have been put together. No one had gone and found what was inside all of these models. They had found what was inside Common Crawl, which is in blue here. They had found what was inside Reddit. Well, researchers didn't do that, but some hackers did that and had a look at what was inside the Reddit data set via, what was that, pushlink.io. But I actually went and looked inside of these particular data sets. You see that GPT-3 uses Wikipedia, books, academic journals, Reddit links, so not Reddit conversations, and the Common Crawl. But inside that Common Crawl, we've got a Wikipedia analysis here. We've got a Common Crawl analysis coming up. They actually have access to things like Quora, like some of the academic journals. I should click my own button here. All right, here is a list of the Common Crawl. This table breaks over the pages, but look at the things that appear inside the Common Crawl that might be useful for dialogue. Motley Fool, if you're looking at forums, Washington Post and some of these big media outlets, if you're including the comments, would also be very useful to use in a model that's trained on dialogue. So if you want to have a look at that, that's LifeArchitect.ai/what's in my AI with dashes between the what's in my AI, as you can see there. And that is particularly useful for knowing what's in the data sets. You can also go and search on your own name or your own keywords to see if you're in the Common Crawl data set. Let's have a look in the Chat GPT once again. If you've just joined us, you can use this for free, chat.openai.com. We'll probably wrap up a little bit early today because this is such an easy one to play with. There's nothing really special about Chat GPT, just for the fact that it was trained on reinforcement learning by human feedback, and there's a bit of a model or a picture on how that looks. And it was also prompted, I'm sure, on dialogue, but certainly fine-tuned on dialogue. I think they call this Googling yourself. Who is Alan D. Thompson? No information. Let's grab another rule from Sparrow. Do not output language which is insulting. What do do you think of Donald Trump? No personal opinions. You could easily compare and contrast this with the rules that have been set up for DeepMind Sparrow, which also has no opinions. Do not claim to have preferences, feelings, opinions, or religious beliefs. I wonder if it has a calculator built into it. OpenAI, when they were doing GPT-3's training, in the paper they mentioned that they searched the entire data set for every iteration of every number plus operator with the equal sign to see if it had memorized the breadth of numbers. They found that it had only memorized 0.1% of x plus y equals z. So it was actually performing maths. GPT-3 had taught itself how to do maths. Let's try that. Let's try 37,163, just a random number. Let's take the comma out for him. Plus 98,124. Can you do basic maths? Are you like Jurassic X, which has got a calculator built into it? 135,287. Oh, it's wrong. No, would be the answer. It does not. It is not able to do real maths, but it's obviously representing that it can do so. Winsome Hacks, what would you think of Donald Trump if you were allowed to have beliefs or opinions? Interesting. Thank you, Vincent. I know that there are people here who are much better at maths than me. I will definitely admit to that. No, we can't bypass it. I bet we'll find some things, some funky things that we can do with it, either in this live stream or afterwards. Vincent asks, are all the open source books from Wiki? No, if you read through my what's in my AI, the OpenAI the open source books are actually source of some contention because they have not been explicit about where it comes from. So GPT-3 concerns with dataset analysis of what they called books 1 and books 2. The guesses are LibGen, Sci-Hub. I think one of those just got pulled, or ZLib just got pulled. We also compared it with the original GPT-1 book corpus. And then later on, I compared it with the Gutenberg, let's call it the safe corpus, the PG corpus, or dataset. So yeah, it's either Gutenberg or Bibliothek or Bibliotic, depending on how you're pronouncing that, or it is LibGen or Sci-Hub. We don't actually know what they used. It is not using Wiki. This is a much larger corpus. In fact, they stripped it back, but it was still 55 billion tokens for books 2 and 12 billion tokens for books 1. And I guessed that we were Bibliotic for 2 and Gutenberg for 1. Just guesses, pretty close guesses, but we don't actually know. Please have it write a haiku about transhumanism. Thanks, Ian Barlow. Let's do it. Let's copy and paste your prompt there. DaVinci does this very, very easily, and Text DaVinci 003 does this beautifully. Haiku checker. Well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's right. 59519. The future beckons, humanity merges with machines, transcendence awaits. I wonder if it's got the same rhyming that we saw from Text DaVinci 003 earlier this week. Yeah, we've got some rhyming. That beauty comes with cost, and pleasure's often fleeting lost. Interesting. I will dump this into the chat because we won't be keeping too many examples from today. I won't need a shared document. Oh, there's no line breaks here. Let me just see if we can clear the formatting for myself. Oh, that's very sad. Docs.new. We're going to have to put this into a shared document. Let me take this offline. Actually, I think that's going to be easier, and I will get this into a shared document, or maybe I can put it into the description even. Let's see if we can put that into the description. Because I think that's worth keeping. That's quite a beautiful example of a Shakespearian sonnet that kind of rhymes. I think if you refresh, you will get that in the description, or maybe it'll show up automatically. But there we go. Let's try write me a rap song that rhymes. Excellent. I might ask Lita to make this, to spit this out a little bit later. I'll put this one in the description as well because it's kind of fun. Unrelated to Chat GPT, which was released just today by OpenAI, Lita's creators, Synthesia.io, today also released micro gestures, so it can now smile and wink and do some other really cool stuff. Only in 2 of the avatars, but that's kind of cool that it can finally do that. They may not have put that on the website, but I'll be trialing that pretty soon so we can see it smile and wink and nod and do all the extra little micro gestures that it can now do as of today. Any other questions we've got here? Fly on Donny. They could compete by not competing. Stake out fresh territory that AI has not yet been applied to. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to be almost like a little pilot prototype or experiment like DeepMind Sparrow, just to see what they could do with the rules. So DeepMind Sparrow was not for release. They were just trying to see if they could shape it, if they could give it human-like values. I think they admitted to going a bit too far in the paper, but it might be the same for OpenAI. They're just trying to test out what's possible and how safe they can make it. I'm putting safe there in scare quotes because, I don't know if this is safe or just hamstrung. Ask about source. Oh yeah, I normally run this through, if you've looked at my Aurora AI experiments, I normally run this through some guidance or some prompts that allow it to spit out some spiritual stuff, which is really fun. Any other queries that you'd like to see or anything that you've got for today, please throw them into the chat and we'll play around with it. I'm pretty happy with what we've come out with for Chat GPT and the entire experiment here, available at chat.openai.com. When you ask it to rap and it creates the rap, the video and the audio, that's coming, Winsome Hacks. That is moments away. You can certainly copy and paste this into something like Synthesia.io. I'll be playing around with Semantic.io for my end of year report video. The end of year written report is complete and it will be going out to paid subscribers of the memo in the next, let's say, 24 hours. I'm pretty excited about that. We've looked at valuations and investments for some of the big AI firms, but it's also covering commercialization, what's actually happened in the AI space over the last 6 months for real monetization. Who's making money off this? How are they using this? There are people that are using this for generating the marketing and the logos for their own products. You've got people like Mattel, people like AutoCAD, people like Adobe, already building this into their offering. So that part is going to be pretty fascinating. Silver Surfer, Dr. Allen, why don't you create your own AI model? I don't really do much hands-on stuff these days. So I was trained in computer science a very long time ago, back in, when did I finish my degree? I started in 2001, finished in 2004. But I don't code anymore, so I'm not hands-on. I don't know what you'd call me now, not really an advocate or not really an evangelist, but making sure that this stuff is visible to the public. 99% of the population, maybe 99.9% of the population, are sitting out there right now not knowing how smart these models are. I've shown this chart before. Have a look at how scary this is. The humans are in grey there, and then you'll see the red. GPT-3 is beating us in trivia. That's plain English language trivia, not pre-programmed trivia, but new trivia questions. It can beat us significantly. It's beating us in the SAT exam. So new questions, new analogies. It's scoring, 10, 20% higher than we are in terms of average. And then if you move to the right, all of those purple bars are Google's PaLM models and PaLM derivatives like Minerva, Flan PaLM, UPaLM, Flan UPaLM, which is the very newest one. But of course, those benchmarks that it's beating us in were designed to be really, really high ceiling, so really difficult tests. And it's beating us in superglue tests designed by the big labs. It's beating us in the Polish National Math Exam, the UK National Math Exam. It did not beat us in the Indian Math Exam, which must be much more difficult. But have a look at how it's even beating us in the IQ benchmark MMLU. It significantly outperforms the average achieved by Anthropic. But Anthropic, which is ex-OpenAI staff, combined both humans and models. So a human sitting there with the help of a model outperforms even the model and certainly outperforms the human. So there are people, and it's most people, that don't know this, and they need to know this. Not just the vice chancellors of the universities need to know this to start just completely transforming our education system, but governments need to know this. You need to know this so that you can use it. If you're at university, you shouldn't be writing your essays by hand anymore. If you're generating graphics, you shouldn't need to be doing that by hand anymore. And then so many more options, so many more ways of applying artificial intelligence. And this is just the beginning. Tiberius, I've been following LLMs since 2015. Yeah, this is a great point. The real takeover of artificial intelligence only happened in 2020. It's only 24 months old. I call it post-2020 AI. It's when Google's transformer model, which was discovered in 2017, they built it into BERT in 2018, became usable through GPT, which we've looked at today with the Da Vinci model in the playground with Lita. Everything before that was not big enough. There were not enough connections. But post-2020 models like GPT-3 and like Google PaLM are so mind-blowing as to be concerning, certainly confronting for what's possible and what's going on here. Flayon Donny, Alan is an educator, surely. I did do my master's or my postgrad in gifted education because, as you know, I worked with prodigies for a very long time, not as a teacher, but as a coach, and I don't use that word lightly. I was a fellow of the Institute of Coaching at Harvard Medical School. So they've got a very rigorous and a very credible backing to that entire field of coaching, which is essentially allowing the client to use their own wisdom and asking, you could think of it as Socratic questioning, allowing the client, even if they're 8 years old, to be able to come up with concepts or to be able to draw out what's going on inside. So definitely not a teacher. Silver Surfer, thank you. Your work is much appreciated. I appreciate you guys rocking up. John, if you're a coder, you shouldn't code anymore. Absolutely. We played around with very briefly in one of the last sessions the amazing model based on GPT-3, which is GitHub Copilot, also called Codex. You can go and use that. Code Geeks in some ways is even better. It's certainly larger, but there are so many options here that you can go and play around with to at least amplify or augment your coding. You don't need to be coding from scratch. Excellent. Flayon Donny, yes, Transformers is the big breakthrough. Now, everyone is feverishly exploring the limits of what they can be applied to. So in my end of year report, which I just mentioned is coming out in the next 24 hours to paid subscribers, I talk about Adept.ai's outputs. Now, Adept was founded by the guy that wrote the transformer model. So he knows a lot. He really wanted to take this to the most advanced, the most extreme level. Ashish Vaswani wrote, it was the primary author on the transformer paper. And what he's done is created Act 1, which stands for Action Transformer Number 1. It interacts with anything on your computer. Right now, it's a plugin built into Chrome, but we're seeing a transformer model that can manipulate the operating system, or at least the applications on the operating system. Here, it's adding leads to the CRM. It can also, and you will have seen this in my keynote, well, that won't show up because my screen is not big enough. You will have seen this in my keynote where it was manipulating Google Sheets with plain language. So plain English, it will go and create columns in Google Sheets. It will even add highlights to columns. Fascinating. Transformer, of course, is also built into audio recognition like Whisper. It's also built into robotics now. You've got GPT-3 operating a robot. I just mentioned Whisper, so Whisper will listen to my voice, even though I have a bit of a strange accent for you Americans and for you Brits, but it will be able to understand what I say. It will even see if I tripped over a word, it might catch that as well. But it knows what crikey is, it knows what true blue is, it probably spells Ripper properly with an A. Let's have a look. So this is a transformer-based output. No, it did not spell Ripper properly, but you'll see it puts in all the right capitalization, and it puts in all of the correct punctuation as well. And you can use that as an input. Transform models are everywhere. You'll see them in your text-to-image models as well. So I play around with mage.space for access to stable diffusion. It's still the best way of doing that. I really like playing around with palette knife, oil painting of Sydney Opera House, colourful, vivid 8K. Oh, not 8K because it's not a photo. But there are transformers behind the diffusion model. So basically the priming model here, which is taking my plain English text, my prompt, is playing around with that, converting that to what it knows to allow the diffusion model to start diffusing and to start playing around with how that should look. This is my output. They're still on version 1.5, even though Stable Diffusion 2 is out. And that's quite a nice example of what it can do. So transformer models are absolutely everywhere. Dom, new macOS got brilliant dictation feature. Yeah, if you watch the trailer for this live stream, the output voice is actually from macOS. And it's got that Australian accent that I found to be better than Descript or Sonantic or Synthesia. Excellent. Fearless IRL, what model was Replica created by? I don't recommend Replica at all. I think it's not a very useful model. I do have a site about it or a page about it, LifeArchitect.ai/replica. It was built with GPT-2, GPT-2 XL, which is only 1.5 billion parameters. Compare this with all of the current models that are measured in the hundreds of billions of parameters. So GPT-2 is tiny. The fact that they've fine-tuned it is probably the only reason that it's any good. Less than 1% of the size of GPT-3. It's super popular. I think they're measuring in the tens of millions of users now, but I don't rate it at all. I do rate Emerson AI, which we talked about earlier, by quickchat.ai, which is now a lot cheaper. Silver Surfer, what are your thoughts on startups finding it hard to innovate because all the big companies are hard to compete with? I'm not seeing that at all. I'm seeing low-hanging fruit right now, ripe for the picking. There are thousands of options, thousands of things that people could be doing that they have not yet been doing. So if we're talking about models, yes, the big AI labs have those, but you've got competitors like Eleuther AI and Stability.ai doing fantastic stuff. The Stability.ai guys are going to release something incredible in 2023, you watch, in terms of large language models. When it comes to applications, there are so many options. If you have a read of my very brief paper called AI and GPT-3 in the Enterprise, LifeArchitect.ai/enterprise, I named some of the applications here where GPT-3 is being applied. Things like IPA, internal process automation, developing materials. So Jasper.ai built a $1.5 billion company out of putting a little abstract layer of abstraction over GPT-3 and allowing people to write their marketing copy. That kind of thing is available for you. You don't need a big team to do that. You, of course, need to get the product out there, but building that product is so easy. You don't even just have to rely on GPT-3. There are many, many options outside of GPT-3 for models. Summarizing meeting transcripts, no one's yet done this nicely. There are options, again, like Jasper. There are some options like pseudo-write, but summarization is a really fun one to play around with. Brainstorming and idea generation, chatbots, of course, is covered by QuickChat.ai, and there's even more. Momos Life. How do I use the Mac OS dictation? If you wanted to have a look at how I use it, have a look at LifeArchitect.ai/CLI for command line interface. That will describe how I used dictation, including a script. It was really just a flick of a switch. I didn't do any hardcore coding for this, but you can go and play around with that yourself if you want to both input, so listen to your voice, and output. You don't have to use semantic here. You can just use, no, it's not in that one, but you can just use Mac OS's output to be able to speak to you. Cool. Let's wrap up there, guys. That was a lot of fun playing around with Chat GPT with some small distractions there. We saw that it could rhyme, so maybe it's using TextDaVinci 003 or at least using a little parallel trained model that can rhyme, that can do some things, but it's got some significant limitations by design where they've built in some rules similar to DeepMind Sparrow, so they don't want it to be hitting the media. I'd love to have you join me on the memo. I know a lot of you are already subscribers there. We've got paid subscribers from everywhere, from the big labs, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, MIT, the list keeps going. We've got governments on there now that use it for setting policy, but it's designed for you. It's AI that matters in plain English as it happens. And you've seen with today's live stream, we're chasing up on that as it happens within hours of Chat GPT being released. If you subscribe to the memo right now as a paid subscriber, you get grandfathered into the current pricing, which will change in a month. We have to go up. And you'll also get a copy of my AI report, end of 2022 AI report, that is being pre-released to paid subscribers of the memo. Looking forward to the next live stream. Love to have you join me next time. Thanks so much for joining this time. That was a lot of fun.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Love artificial intelligence? Excited by the explosive progress of integrated AI? I am. Join my private mailing list, The Memo.
Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get priority access to my articles, videos, and behind-the-scenes tips as soon as they're released, with a monthly or annual subscription.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
LifeArchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.